hello, good evening to each and every one of you. How are you all doing tonight? I do hope you're well, especially if you're in one of those areas that have been affected by these storms. I hope you're all staying safe. And what better thing to do, quite frankly, when you're locked up indoors than sit and watch Jubes and Co. If you do need to go out, of course, you can listen to me on the radio and also my panel. You can decide if that's a treat or not. Alongside me, I've got the pollster academic and GB News presenter Matt Goodwin alongside him, former political director to Keir Starmer, Luke Sullivan. Good evening, gents. You're very welcome tonight. As, of course, each and every single one of you at home, you always are. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me. You can go to the website. Of course, you can tweet or you X me, whatever it is that you like to call it these days. Now, in a second, I shall be talking about the absolute state of the current Labour government. Just 11% of the electorate backing what they are doing. But I do just want to also let you know, if you've been having the debate in amongst your workplaces, in amongst your own home, about that shooting that you've just been seeing in the headlines there over in America. There's going to be a press conference happening any second now, supposed to be at 6 o'clock. They're just running a little bit late. It's caught my eye today, the likes of Jeremy Corbyn calling this a fascist murder. He's saying basically this is what happens when you let far-right enforcement agencies and governments and all the rest of it run amok. He says it's all the more chilling that politicians in this country have called for ICE-style raids to implement an anti-migrant programme. What do you think to this? I mean, you've just seen the clip. Do you look at that and go, oh my God, what a fascist situation? Do you have a slightly different view? I am a nosy Parker, so when that press conference does start, I will take you over to that and we can see how that one pans out. But for now, this poll caught my eye, you know. Just 11% of Brits, this is a YouGov poll, just 11% of Brits now support the Keir Starmer government and their performance of what it is that they're doing. You, Luke Sullivan, played a pivotal role in getting this government into power. How do you think they're doing? Look,
I think the poll probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody.
It's a surprise to me. I can't believe it's that high. 11%.
Well, I was avoiding making the obvious joke, but look, I think there is no underplaying how difficult the government's political position is. I think it's been a very difficult first 18 months for this Prime Minister. And yes, the public are rightly furious, not just with this Labour government, but on the whole with all politicians. Their tolerance for politicians and politics, for politicians who have promised them that they're going to fix things and get them done, and then them not seeing them. And I think that's completely understandable. And I think we also saw at this weekend when the Prime Minister was out giving a range of interviews and pieces to other journalists, him actually acknowledging that he understands the public are furious and want change, and that he also wants to get on and do it.
Do you think he understands that, or do you think he's been taught, you've got to get in front of those cameras and you've got to say, right, I get it now, I'm on it, I'm there?
No, he does definitely get it. I think he himself...
Well, he's created it. So if you get it, why have you created it then?
Well, I don't think it is cause and effect. I think it was always going to take a long time to fix some of the problems that the British public can see and are really, really frustrated at. This isn't an overnight fix. I think the other part of the picture has got to be for this government that he's also got to show some hope, some sense that there are some quickish wins. It can't just be, it's going to take me 5-10 years to fix the country. They've got to show some proof. And I think the Prime Minister, some of the key advisors around Keir Starmer have also said this is going to be the year of proof where people are going to see the benefits of some of the difficult choices they've made.
Matt Goodwin?
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Well, I think what we're seeing is the most unpopular government in polling history, with the most unpopular Prime Minister in polling history. Labour are collapsing before our eyes, not because of what came before the Labour government, but because of the choices the Labour government have made. It was the Labour Party's decision to put taxes up when they promised the opposite. The Labour Party's decision to cripple businesses up and down this country with tax rises, with business rate increases. It was the Labour Party's decision not to fix the borders, not to do the things that are necessary to keep British people safe. It was the Labour Party's decision to sell off our national territory and then to deride much of the country as being far right. I just think Starmer and the Labour government have clearly shown themselves to have no understanding of what ordinary people in this country are thinking and feeling. And now the people in this country have seen through this Labour government. And it's not true, just lastly, that this is politics as normal. Lots of people are actually supporting political parties. One of the interesting things today, Michelle, is only 35% of people are supporting the two uniparties, the old parties. The vast majority of people are either supporting Reform, or they've gone over to the Greens, or they've gone over to the Liberal Democrats. What we're seeing, I think, is the collapse of the regime that has dominated this country for the last 30 years and the beginning of something entirely different and very new.
One of the things that's always on my mind is how much preparation, because obviously Labour were 14 years in the wings waiting for their moment on the stage. To me and to many of my viewers, it feels like when you've got that stage, when you've finally got your moment, right, there you go then, you've won. It seems like it's almost caught people by surprise. They've got no idea what they're doing. They're plucking things out of thin air. The second they get a bit of pushback, they start panicking and changing all of their minds. Did you actually prepare properly for this moment?
I think that is a very fair question and challenge, and there's a great line. Well, look, I think that there's a great line from Mike Tyson which says everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face. And I think there is a fair criticism of this government that they weren't prepared and didn't have that plan, and that's been well spoken of.
You were one of the key people there, then, so what were you doing?
I think it's been well documented and, may not have reached it through to sort of everyday punters on the street, but I think some of the people who were tasked with doing that preparation work didn't do it. I think that was why the Prime Minister made some changes to his team at certain points. I also think, and look, this is no excuse to the British public, I do think this government has rather had to find a way of trying to build the plane as they fly, because I think there was a sense in the Labour Party, because of the way it's operated, it's used to losing elections, and it was almost a taboo to talk about what they would do in government. And I think that has shown there are ministers who really had good plans.
Look, this is what I can't get my head around. You were literally one of Keir Starmer's right-hand men, so you're talking about, they used to do this and they used to do that, but this must have been in part you.
Yeah, and that's a fair challenge.
Were you not sitting there thinking, I mean, surely you were not sitting there doing your job going, hey, I'm going to put my feet up, smoke a cigar because we're never going to win. You must have been thinking you was going to win, right? Surely.
I think we sensed we were very likely to win unless something happened. There were certain people who were tasked with preparation of government and were given that as a responsibility. I think that is a failing of some of the preparation, and that is why I do think they've had some problems in certain areas, and it has been and it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask.
Do you think there's anything that they can do to turn this around?
No, I think it's completely over for this Labour Party, the Labour government. No, I think it's over for the Labour Party. I think what we're heading into is a prolonged period of managed decline in this country. We've seen the official economic forecast. We know growth is going to continue to basically remain at very low levels of decline. Living standards are going to decline. Illegal migration is going to to continue to increase. And we know a lot more businesses are going to go bust and a lot more people are going to be made unemployed because of the business rate changes, because of the minimum wage changes, because of the national insurance changes. And where I really lose patience with Keir Starmer and Labour ministers is when they still blame this on what happened before this government. But as I just said, a lot of what we're seeing now in the polling, a lot of what we're seeing in the economy, Michelle, is directly downstream of Labour's decision not to reform welfare, Labour's decision to increase taxes, Labour's decision to put the pedal down on net zero and push electricity prices up to the highest point in the Western world, Labour's decision to get rid of Rwanda, to get rid of the Illegal Migration Act, therefore encouraging more people to come over and then forcing the British people to pay 15 billion in accommodation costs for people who are breaking our laws, and then Labour's decision to call those people far right when they dared to protest about it. Everything I see in the polling is downstream of a Prime Minister that, to be frank, doesn't look fit to be Prime Minister and doesn't look like he actually understands what's going on in this country.
There's been an interesting row that's broken out today, like yesterday, last night / today, about this two-child benefit cap. So the process of getting this written into legislation has begun today. There's been an argument, though, about what this should look like. You've got the likes of Nigel Farage saying that they will vote against this. You've got this whole argument about who's actually going to be benefiting from this situation. Rachel Reeves, she's found herself in a spot of hot water because she's essentially saying, I don't care if a child is white, black or whatever, they shouldn't be in poverty. But Reform's position was saying that they want it to be British children.
Yeah.
They didn't make it about skin colour. Zia Youssef, he's basically suggested that the Chancellor is an ethno-nationalist. Why should, because the majority of these families are not in work, these large families, why should an adult choose not to work to be able to expand their family at a rate of knots without considering the finances behind that, safe in the knowledge that the people that do go to work will bail them out? Why do you think that's the right policy?
I personally don't think that is the right, and I don't think that's the position of the government.
It is.
Well, I don't think that is.
Accurately describe the position of the government.
It's a version of what parts of the policy are. Look, the majority of the people.
Wrong? They've lifted the two-child benefit cap. Add for
they've lifted, and they've lifted because they think this is the simplest, quickest, most cost-effective way of taking children out of poverty. Relative poverty, and there's different measures that you can use. There is no politician that I'm aware of on the Labour side, especially not this Prime Minister or the Chancellor, who thinks, people should sit at home on benefits and have bigger and bigger families.
But they are.
There are certain people who do that, but I think what you would find is on the majority of the people who will benefit from this change, that the majority of them are on universal credit and probably working. That there is a very small number of large families, and I agree with you. Look, I think that is wrong, and I don't think any Labour politician should defend that.
The idea, that Labour are not actually getting on top of welfare. We have 9 million working age adults on welfare. About half of those have no requirement to look for work. Now, Labour had an opportunity to reform the welfare state and incentivise work rather than welfare. Labour chose not to do any of those reforms. Labour couldn't even commit itself to actually lowering the pace of spending increase on welfare. It just completely ducked out of welfare reform. Now Rachel Reeves has the audacity to say, well, Nigel Farage is racist for saying that any changes in the welfare regime should fundamentally benefit British people who are working and contributing to the economy. She's completely adrift with what Reform is saying on this policy. She's clearly not read the Reform policy on this issue. It is also true, as we know from freedom of information requests that Nick Timothy and others have submitted, that around nearly 400,000 people who are going to disproportionately benefit from Labour's welfare change are families of Pakistani, Nigerian, Somali heritage that are more likely to have large families. Many of them are not working. Many of them are not in the economy. So there are lots of taxpayers watching this show who will say, well, I get up in the morning, I set my alarm at night, so I have to get up, I have to go and work hard. Why am I now being forced to subsidise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in this country who are often not from this country, who happen to be having large families, sitting at home and not working?